Here's why I don't think 10 cents for ZBCN is too crazy. Now, even though nothing I say is financial advice, here's my rationale. Let's say we assume XRP, which is the market leader as of right now, with a market cap of around $130 billion. And of course, I'm talking about the market leader when it comes to these projects that are focused on payments and global trade and finance, which, of course, Zebec is focused on those markets too. But even besides that, let's say we assume XRP, with this amazing of a market cap as of right now, reaching around an $800 billion market cap during a fully fledged bull run, which I don't think is too much to ask for, by the way, because it's not even that far off, actually. But even besides that, let's say it does that. And let's say something like XLM goes to a market cap of around 250, 300 billion. Now, let's say we assume that right there is a market cap combined, right, of over $1 trillion. That's insane. That's over $1,000 billion. Imagine that. Now, we assume, let's say something like ZBCN going to the price of 10 cents. Considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $7.5 billion. Again, that's around a 109x from here, but again, that's around a $7.5 billion market cap. Again, if something like XRP reaches a market cap of around $800 billion and something like, let's say, XLM for simplicity's sake reaches around 250 to 300 billion in market cap, over $1 trillion, this $7.5 billion isn't even 1% of that. Can you imagine that? That's kind of crazy. So are we saying that if XRP and XLM does that well during a fully fledged bull run, I'm not saying right now, some of that volume can't trickle down to something like ZBCN? You know, this is just the way to take a look at it. It doesn't seem that crazy because people love options. They love other alternatives. This is very normal because take a look at people. Are they only believing in Shiba Inu and Dogecoin? A lot are, but not every single person. You know, some people out there, they may love Pepe. They may love other projects, like, for instance, Dog with Hat. You know, there's a bunch of options, right? So the way you take a look at it is that naturally, during a fully fledged bull run, even though XRP and XLM, I think hypothetically could do so amazing, some of it, I think, is going to trickle down to ZBCN. So I don't think this is too crazy of a market cap, really. I mean, again, right? XRP currently has a market cap. We're nowhere near a fully fledged bull run again, and it's around 130 billion. So even if, let's say, less than 10% of that flowed into ZBCN as of right now, this market cap wouldn't even seem that crazy. You know, this doesn't seem that insane to me. I'm not saying that ZBCN is going to reach like a 50, 70, $80 billion market cap. I'm not saying that during this bull run. Let's just say hypothetically around $7.5 billion. Doesn't seem that insane, especially personally for me, in my mindset, when I put some perspective into that. And I just kind of feel like, okay, the market leaders could do so amazing. Why can't some of the volume trickle down here? This is just the way you take a look at it. Now, when it comes to Zebec, I get it. Some people view it as sort of this boring project. Well, it's not the most interesting, I'll say that, but it's at least useful, in my opinion. And I think can make a very big impact because, yeah, sure, some people kind of think about it as like a carbon copy of like Ripple or Stellar, but really, I think it brings more flavor. I think it brings more attention to what this could be as opposed to some other competitors in this space, which doesn't really feel that much different. Now, let me explain why. Zebec is focused on something called RWA payments. Now, RWA stands for real world asset. And if we take a look at RWA tokens, they are digital representations of physical assets on the blockchain. And categories for what these assets could be, could, let's say, be in cases of real estate, art, bonds, stocks. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. So I do like that when it comes to Zebec. They're also focused on AI-based PayFi. And AI, the market is predicted to reach nearly $2 trillion in value by 2030, according to Grandview Research. So that's amazing. The payments market is currently valued at over $2 trillion. The global trade and finance market is predicted to reach up to $5 trillion in value by 2020, according to Mordor Intelligence. So really, when you take a look at Zebec, it brings more aspects. Again, right, we take a look at the aspects of AI. We take a look at RWA. Not to mention, Zebec is partners with Visa, MasterCard, JP Morgan, Bank of America. I mean, this is very impressive, if you ask me. For a relatively speaking, very small project to be able to achieve stuff like this is very wonderful. It also has investors like, you know, Solana Ventures. Not to mention, we take a look at something like Circle, which is the creator of USDC, the stablecoin. arguably many people's number 2 go-to stablecoin. So when I take a look at something like Zebec, it's a very solid project. Now, the amazing thing about it as well is the fact that if we take a look at ZBCN, it's not this multi-billion-dollar market cap cryptocurrency, to the point that if a project is that massive, we kind of automatically assume that the partnerships and investors should be amazing. But then it's kind of like underrated in a sense that it's not a big project by any means, in my opinion. But then it has investors like that. But then it has partnerships like that. That says something. These large-scale entities, they're not going to want to partner up with something random or something like that. They're not going to want to partner with, what their neighbor told them or their tennis coach or their best friend. I mean, it's going to be a little bit more to that. I think they do their due diligence. I think they do their research. They have a team. So when they actually believe in something, it showcases that, hey, they did their research. Doesn't mean it's automatically going to do good. No, because I believe that even large entities do sometimes make mistakes. But I'm just saying still, this right here does give me great confidence when it comes to Zebec. I don't think it's a bad project, at least in my opinion. Not to mention as well, it has been alleged that when it comes to Zebec, it's focused on giving individuals, businesses, investors, and teams faster and easier access to funds and tokens. Now, it kind of backs it up though, because not too long ago, there was around 50,000 monthly users. There was also over 200 payroll enterprise clients, and its payroll volume also quite a while back ago, or should I say not too long ago, was around $1 billion. So I think Zebec is a very special project, and it's just a waiting game at this point. Now, again, people seem to think that this board is going to be bad, but I disagree with that. I mean, we're nowhere near a fully fledged board. I think a lot of people can agree with that. Bitcoin did well, but we haven't seen that altcoin season like back in 2021 yet. And here's the crazy thing. In 2021, during the peak of that board, around 300 million crypto owners. Now there's over 600 million according to Crypto.com research. Could you imagine if, let's say, Bitcoin goes to $150,000, $200,000, $250,000? That figure, over 600 million crypto owners, I think could maybe be over 700 million, let's say even 800 million. Who knows, maybe even more than that. So the way you take a look at it is that, could you imagine with that amount of FOMO, that buying pressure, that buying volume, what ZBCN could do, especially again, if XRP and XLM does do very well, which I hypothetically do think they might do well because I think they're very amazing, not to mention the Ripple and SEC case allegedly dropping forever. That's good news for the whole space overall. So when they do well, can't some of the volume flow into this? And especially with all those bullish factors, also the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, and also not to mention something that I think is going to greatly benefit the future of something like Zebec is the positive sentiment that we see as of right now when it comes to Solana. We take a look at the anticipation of what the Solana ETF could bring in Canada. And of course, Zebec, many people would arguably say, hey, due to its somewhat close ties to Solana, anything benefiting Solana could hypothetically affect this in a good and healthy way, I would assume. So I think this is all good news when it comes to Zebec. It's just a waiting game at this point. It has the right pieces in place. It has the fans, it has the community, it has the exchange listings, it has the partnerships, it has the reputable investors like against Solana Ventures and Circle, the creator of USDC. It's just a waiting game as of right now. All I gotta do is stay patient. That's it. Sure, I could draw random stuff on a price chart. It's not gonna matter though, because it's not gonna make the markets move in any way. It doesn't care what I draw on a price chart. All I gotta do is stay patient. Historically, altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they usually peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. 18 months after the last Bitcoin halving event would actually mean around October this year. So again, it's not a surefire thing, but I'm gonna still pay attention nonetheless, and I'm still gonna believe in this in 10 cents. Doesn't seem that crazy to me whatsoever when it comes to ZBCN. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's Mali the Captain. I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.